Hello and welcome to this brief webinar from ICT. The webinar will see the Director of Training, Education and Development here at ICT spend a short time looking at the different sanctions regimes that exist and asking which of these could apply to your business. I'll hand over now to Pekka Dare to talk you through it.
So let's ask the question, which sanctions regimes apply? Effectively, I think a good way of describing sanctions is as a patchwork. There are a range of different legislative and governmental organisations that underpin the sanctions regimes. Now, there are many different sanctions regimes around the world, as we shall see shortly. So it is incumbent on every regulated financial services firm to evaluate, based on their own business operations, their own customer base, their own jurisdictional footprint, and the way that they transact their business, as to which lists impact their business and which lists have jurisdiction over your business model. Now, again, the agencies that issue these lists include, but are not limited to, the following. I've mentioned already the United Nations Security Council. Under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, the UN Security Council can and does issue resolutions requiring member states to, for example, freeze the assets of those linked to terrorist financing. The European Union also produces lists, and again, many European jurisdictions automatically adopt those lists straight into their laws. Again, very wide-reaching set of regimes. In the UK, we have HM Treasury, who issue what's known as the Consolidated List of Financial Sanctions Targets. It's known as the Consolidated List because HM Treasury takes the United Nations lists, takes the European Union lists, mashes them together and adds a series of additional names and entities. It would be remiss of me not to mention probably the most well-known extraterritorial regime, which is the American Office of Foreign Asset Control. Now, originally established in its current incarnation after World War II, OFAC is well known for its extraterritorial application, as we shall see in a minute. It is, of course, also worth saying that there are local jurisdictional lists produced by many countries. For example, the Australians, Singapore, Hong Kong, many countries issue their own lists as well. So it's important that when firms are considering which lists are applicable, that they're particularly sensitive to the concept of extraterritoriality. So many of you, I'm sure, will know OFAC itself is drafted, the regime is underpinned by legislation, which means US dollar transactions are typically caught, US citizens and green card holders are personally liable, US institutions and their branches and subsidiaries, wherever they are also caught, and indeed banks with foreign banks with a correspondent banking relationship into the US are also caught. It's also worth mentioning, of course, that the EU is also clearly extraterritorial as well in respect of its sanctions regime. European Union firms are caught for their branches and subsidiaries outside the EU, as are EU citizens.
That brings us to the end of the webinar. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget you can find more information regarding sanctions training as well as other courses offered by ICT at our website www.int-comp.com.